Hello and welcome to the Netflix Mix Picks, the show where I pick a random Netflix movie on Netflix, obviously. Right now I have it positioned at Legally Blonde, I can see that, but my monitor, or my viewfinder on my camera is turned around, so I can't actually see what's behind me. The only reason I know it's Legally Blonde is because I put it there initially. So, the main focus of this show is going to simply be to watch a random movie. That's it. I'm going to get onto Netflix and go up or down a couple of times, sideways a couple of times, and then randomly land on a movie. Like this one, whatever it is. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm just going to watch it and talk about it. That's the show. Let's see what I got. Little Rascals. All right, we're watching Little Rascals. Can I pick again?
All right, good catch!
So that concludes The Little Rascals, a movie I didn't want to watch, but here we are with the Netflix Mix Picks. That's what it picked, so I watched it. This is a movie that is just not for me. I mean, this type of family, drama, comedy, romance, I try to avoid if possible. I don't love these types of movies, but I did find some things about this mildly interesting, surprisingly. There is some things in this that I found that I enjoyed. Also, surprisingly, it's not a movie that I think I'll ever watch again, if I have to, or if I can avoid it, but I didn't hate it. There's a lot of things about it that I kind of hated, but it's a movie that I can understand why so many people love this movie, because people really love this movie. It's something of a family classic at this point. People quote the "oh Tay" all the time, or "I got a pickle, hey, 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 hey" thing. I hear that constantly. It's kind of annoying, but people really like it. And from what I could tell, the big draw of this movie is pretty simple. You watch a bunch of 6-month-old kids saying big words.
Hello again, you stud muffins. Oh, Darla, we're two hearts with but one beat. I'm a sensitive male.
But why? That seems to be the draw. I mean, I don't quite understand it because I found most of that pretty obnoxious when kids are just saying things that adults say. It's a novelty that wears off within 5 minutes. It could work for like a YouTube short or something of that nature, but a feature film is like exhausting, hearing kids stumble over big lines or horribly mispronounce or mush mouth through a line of dialogue. It's exhausting. I don't enjoy that, but it does seem to be the biggest draw. So if you do like that type of thing, you'll probably enjoy this. But if you're looking to watch this or to get into something with a little bit more than just kids saying big words and talking like a human, or they are humans, talking like an adult, then this is not for you. It's not for me, because I like to watch a movie for a movie. I like to watch a movie that has filmmaking, that has good writing, good structure, dialogue, characters, character development, arcs, all of these things. And this really doesn't have a lot. The most interesting thing about it was actually a pretty solidly structured movie, which was the most surprising and welcome part of this movie. The first act is pretty clear, second act is pretty clear, third act is pretty clear. Most of it is kind of hit or miss. The second act especially is sort of just a series of scenes that the kids do things. And it gets kind of tiring for me. But the structure's there. The first act is about this kids group who form an anti-women group, and one of their members is in love with a girl. And then through him being in love with a girl and some wacky misunderstandings, their clubhouse gets burned down and the girlfriend starts hating him. So then that sets off our second act, which is sort of the rising conflict, where he's trying to get back with her while also competing with Trump's son for her, while also trying to protect a go-kart from some bullies who want to steal it. And then the third act is about the big climax race at the end, where they can win money to rebuild their clubhouse. It's a pretty solid structure. It's not anything special, it's not like complicated, but it didn't need to be. And it certainly shouldn't have been, because it's a kids movie with a bunch of kids running around. If you have a complicated plot, then that just wouldn't work. So I like the structure, I like the story, it actually works pretty well. I think the biggest issue with it is it kind of is convoluted with its subplots and storylines and the amount of characters in it. There are so many characters, there's so many kids in this that needed screen time, or at least the director seemed to feel like they needed screen time. So it just will be constantly cutting to kids who aren't really doing anything. And even with all of that, it's not even 90 minutes, which was shocking to me. It's a movie that can't reach 90 minutes and still somehow feels convoluted and at times meandering. Like I said in the second act, there's just a series of scenes where they try to figure out a way to buy the wood to rebuild their clubhouse. But then in the third act, they just assemble a new go-kart because the one they had got stolen from them out of just whatever, like makeshift crap, and then the cart wins. So why couldn't they just rebuild their fort out of whatever random crap? Because that's what it was built off in the first place. So I don't quite understand the story perspective of them wanting to buy wood to build their clubhouse. Was it even made of wood? It just looked like it was made of scrap. So that's really weird, and it made these scenes where they're just like doing things to find money to get wood kind of stupid. And then the bully characters too were like completely unnecessary. It just pads the runtime.
Come back here, you ugly little freak!
If you want to have a story about a clubhouse burning down and then the kids trying to get money to rebuild the clubhouse, then make that the story. If you want to have a movie about racing, kids building a go-kart to race, make that the story. The fact that they're interwoven doesn't quite work for me, and the fact that they have a go-kart already really doesn't work for me. Just cut all that subplot completely out and then just have them have their clubhouse burned down, try to raise money, realize that they failed, and then maybe see a sign that says go-kart race, $500 grand prize, and then have the second half of the movie be them building a cart, racing, figuring it out, and kind of building camaraderie. But then instead it's just a bunch of scenes, and then the bullies steal the cart, and then they just build another one in a montage in 5 seconds. It feels really lazy. The whole movie feels really lazy, especially when you factor in the filmmaking, which feels even lazier than the storytelling.
Come back here, you ugly little freak!
There are a number of sequences where the kids are running from the bullies. Oh no, they're gonna get me, ah! And every single time they sped up the footage, it looks like crap. Every single time. I realize kids can only run at a max 1 mile per hour, but how about don't shoot it in a wide then? Have it behind their feet so it looks like they're running faster. Or have it be close up. Have them on like a scooter or something. Why keep having these scenes where they're running and then you just speed the footage up? It feels incredibly lazy. They just prop the camera up and say, okay, run from here to there. All right, that's fine. We'll make it look faster in post. Whatever. There's a lot of moments like this where it just feels like they said, whatever, we'll fix it in post. There's some visual effects in this that look terrible, and they're completely unnecessary. You don't need visual effects for this story, and yet here they are, and they look awful. The editing in this feels like a first draft. It feels like an assembly cut of a movie where you just put scenes in place, and then you go back and tighten everything up, but they didn't go back and tighten it up? Because every time a character says a line, it cuts to a reaction shot, like every single time.
Then how can you belong to that silly woman haters club? You know, I'm a woman.
The strangest element is the cameos. Like, why? Is that why the visual effects look so bad? Is that why it feels so lazy and thrown together? Because they had to give a bunch of money to cameos? It's so bizarre. I mean, you have Donald Trump, you have Whoopi Goldberg, you have, who else? Mel Brooks shows up, you have Reba McEntire, and you even have the Olsen and Olsen Mystery Agency twins show up. I don't understand why. Why? It just kind of is distracting. Like in the middle of a movie, hey, I recognize that guy. And they even like make notice of Whoopi Goldberg. They're like, oh, my mom's here. And then a kid says, Whoopi, and it cuts to her. It's just there because it's her. It's completely unnecessary. Why even have it? Why pay these people to show up just to have like one line of dialogue? It's so weird to me.
Winner by a hair! Yes!
It's a weird movie. It's very strange, and I don't really like it. I can understand why it's a classic. I can understand why so many people do like it, because they want to watch a movie where kids stumble over dialogue and say things that adults should say. People like that for some reason. If you want to get a little bit of humor out of that, then it's a fine watch. But if you want literally anything else, it's a pretty weak movie. I mean, you have some pretty basic character development, you have some pretty basic storytelling, you have a pretty solid structure and a couple good jokes. But other than that, the filmmaking is really not great. It feels very lazy, it's poorly edited, and the cameos just are terrible. And for me, I don't really like watching kids stumble over dialogue for sub 90 minutes, so it's not for me. But next time, we'll see what we get next time on the Netflix Mix Picks. It could be anything, which is really scary to me. But that's why this is fun. So tune in next time, whenever I'm going to do another one. Who knows?